Hello. I just released a video, I'll put the link in the description, in which I was discussing an arrest of two 10-year-old boys by Colorado police, the El Paso Police Department, or no, the Colorado Springs Police Department. I don't apologize to you for getting your name wrong because you're a bunch of idiots. I'm talking to the Colorado Springs Police, of course, not to my faithful viewers and listeners. Now, I got a lot of comments bringing up the Tony Randall incident, one or two asking why I hadn't dealt with it. And the answer was I wanted to think about it because there's something odd going on here, isn't there? I mean, everyone knows that. I just wanted to think about it a bit more. The bare bones of the story was at a Center Parcs swimming pool, and his daughter ran up to him and said, his 8-year-old daughter ran up to him and said, a man had grabbed her bottom. Now, so far as I can work out, and this is information that comes from, so it's one-sided, although I have no cause to doubt it, I have to point this out. The story we're getting at this point is that there were 3 Asian men of above the age of 30 at the shallow end of a swimming pool where small children were congregating. Now, if this is the case, then that's certainly something we can be a little bit concerned about, is it not? But apparently no alarms were raised, except that this child, when she was passing one of the men, had her bottom grabbed. That's the first part of the story. The second part is that Tony Randall confronted the man, tried to stop him from leaving, and then there was a fight. Who threw the first punch? Again, we don't know. But I have a picture here from the news, and it shows his neck. Now, that's quite a grab. That's quite a grab and scratches. And I know that he's a street fighter. So if he'd thrown the first punch, that man would not have been in a position to scratch his neck like that. He'd have been on the floor. So I tend to assume that it was the man who attacked, although might have been blocking his path. Now, the question is, why were 3 men at the shallow end of the children's end of a swimming pool? That in itself is very weird. A couple of people in comments I've seen have suggested that it was a setup, that they were deliberately going for the Tony Randall family. Now, this is not entirely outside the bounds of possibilities, because certainly Bedfordshire police knew he was there. They're obviously keeping tabs on him, and they would have known, if they're keeping tabs on him, they would have known he was going to be there. It wouldn't be entirely outside the bounds of possibility that they sent those 3 men there. They might, we don't know who they are. They might even be in the police themselves. We don't know. We don't know. But it does seem odd. And certainly we know that the police have run operations in which they have disguised themselves as members of, for instance, a very famous set of cases where they infiltrated organisations like Greenpeace and the Greenham Common Women movement, and in one or two cases actually fathered children of these women, living with them, pretending to be part of their general political persuasion, going on, demos and that sort of thing, fathering children and then just disappearing. A most horrendously dishonourable behaviour, and they're apologising now. But that doesn't make up for the wasted lives. And some of these women were widowed. They felt themselves widowed, and they spent their whole lives worrying about the disappearance of this man that they thought was theirs, and was, in many cases, actually married to somebody else. A true disgrace. Now, the police can act like that, so they could act like that again. I don't see that it's outside the bounds of possibility. But even if it were not the police setting this incident up, the fact is that although was involved in a fight, you'd expect the other party to the fight also to have been arrested and identified, and that doesn't appear to have happened. So even if this was a complete accident, it's quite obvious that the police themselves, the ones on the ground, had orders from someone higher up who wanted to make sure that the other people were not identified or dealt with in any way. Whether the police set it up or not, or whether they just made use of the situation, the fact is the police are definitely acting suspiciously. And it's actually quite heartbreaking to know that our police are so corrupted. Obviously, it's not all of them, but there's enough that this whole situation has been sealed, and that would require the cooperation of, well, quite a lot of police operatives and quite a big amount of the organisation. It is very worrying. What is also worrying is how it's been reported. So this is the Daily Mail. Okay? Tony Randall is charged with common assault after he smacked a holidaymaker during a row at Center Park's swimming pool. The articles themselves, the ones I'm going to show you, are very short. There are some nice pictures of Center Parks, but it says here, it gives the police spokesman's version of the story. We were called at around 1:30 p.m. on Sunday to a report of an altercation. One man sustained an injury to his face and received first aid. The other man, you notice he is not named, but this guy is, has been charged with common assault. And that's it. No mention of his daughter. And at the bottom it says here, in September last year, Mr. walked free from jail after serving just 2 months of his sentence for contempt of court. Now, that's not just 2 months. He'd been in jail before. They let him out because they had arrested him wrongly and tried him unjustly, and he was in jail for several months before they let him out to go through the process again. So it wasn't just 2 months, and the Daily Mail knows that. Okay, and also it says here, Mr. live streamed a video which featured defendants in an Asian sex grooming trial and put the case at risk of collapse, which of course is not true, because the case had already been, the defendants had already been found guilty. All right, that's the Daily Mail. The next one is Coventry Live. Tony Randall charged with common assault after fight in Center Park's pool. EDL founder, you see, this is something he founded and left, but, because it went bad and he didn't want to be associated with it anymore. right? Do we ever hear of David Cameron as the Bullingdon Club member, David Cameron? No. And the Bullingdon Club was a group of young toffs who acted badly in one of, what was it, in Cambridge or Oxford? You know, I don't know which university he went to now. Anyway, you see my point. Is due in court after being charged in relation to an altercation in a swimming pool. It comes after reports emerged of a fight breaking out between two men at the Centre Parks holiday park in Bedfordshire. Coventry Live reported yesterday how the far-right English Defence League, they didn't even say man or member or founder. They just put in as many words as they could and then lost control, had been arrested on Sunday. I mean, it's just, they had a list of words they have to put in regard to, that's it. And then they forgot the fact that it's a man they're talking about here. That's very telling. One man suffered an injury to his face and received first aid at the scene. Okay, and the next one is, let's have a look. The next one is the Independent. And charged with common assault after Centre Park swimming pool fight. Has been charged with common assault over an incident at Centre Parks. He was the former leader of the far-right English Defence League. Do you notice how it's all the same words? You start to wonder where they're getting their vocabulary from here, don't you? Because it really is as if they're reading from the same script. Was arrested on Sunday after police heard reports of da-di-da-di-da. One man suffered an injury to his face and received the same words. Reports suggesting the fight broke out, the attraction. He's due to appear at Luton Magistrates Court. All right. Additional reporting by Press Association, and my suspicion is that's where all this comes from. And then we've got here The Guardian. Tony Randall faces assault charge after Centre Park's arrest. The former, just look how short this article is. Big photo of and looking a bit mean, but look at the length of that. The former English Defence League leader, you see? Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't put far right in there. Let's see if it comes lower down. Tony Randall. So charged with common assault at incident Centre Parks, Bedfordshire Police was due to appear at Luton Magic. He was arrested on Sunday about 1 after called to Centre Parks in Woburn Forest over an altercation between two men. One man sustained an injury to his face and received first aid at the scene. Same words. So it's obvious there is a directive going out here. It's quite obvious. And you've got to wonder why. Now, when the was being persecuted, this was under Theresa May's supervision, or, you know, she was in control of things at the time. And you might have thought, well, it had come down from her. But this seems to be going on even under Boris Johnson's administration. And he is definitely more sane in that respect than was Theresa May. So I doubt it's actually coming from the cabinet itself. It's coming from somewhere in the police, and the newspapers are in cahoots. The Sun, I'm sorry I didn't, let's see, I'll just a minute. The Sun, the Sun newspaper, let's see what they have to say. Oh, here we are. Arrested for common assault after a row at Centre Park swimming pool. Far-right extremist. Tony Randall. And I mean, you get it straight there. Because you see, let's look at it this way. The Guardian is supposed to be more intellectual. So they don't say far-right extremist because, you know, it's a bit more subtle. But the Sun is aimed at what's considered a lower IQ parish, and so they have to put it in words of one syllable right from the beginning, I think. I believe I've been told that the Sun has a vocabulary they use which is aimed at 12-year-olds. That's what I've been told. Now, I happen to like the Sun, and I did read it quite a lot because I used to frequent a cafe where actually I wrote about the owner of the cafe. I made a video about him after he died quite recently. But I used to go to his cafe quite a lot before he retired, and which he didn't do too far back. And he always had copies of The Sun because it was the sort of cafe where builders went, and the Sun, the Daily Mail, that's the sort of papers they tend to read. And I used to read it and I enjoyed it. I liked it. It wasn't at all patronising. But I did notice, of course, the vocabulary tended to be a little less extensive, and the messages tended to be a little more sort of black and white and less subtle. But that was the editorial picture. No problem with that. I still enjoyed reading it. But here you see far-right extremist Tony Randall, arrested after an alleged bust-up at the pool at Centre Parks. He was on a break at the Woburn Resort in Bedfordshire when he allegedly clashed with another guest. A source claimed that the loudmouth, we're not loading the story here, are we? Confronted a male holiday maker before smacking him in the face. Nothing about that male holiday maker grabbing his daughter's bottom, is there? Cops were called to the tropical dome, packed with families, and that's the important thing, because there were 3 men there on their own and no families. The alleged victim was given medical treatment at the scene but did not need to be taken to hospital. One man sustained an injury to his face and received first aid. You see, nothing here. Okay, and here we come where they give some background on. He was caged for 9 months on July the 11th, 219. At least they got the sentencing time right, after being found guilty of contempt for live streaming a video outside a child grooming trial. He was found to have encouraged mob rule when he breached a reporting restriction over the case. Actually, I don't think that's what he was found to have done. Well, he was found to have breached some sort of reporting restriction, not encouraging mob rule. Okay, well, that's it. So you see nothing at all about his daughter, everything about his far-right history. And you notice the photo here. He's obviously been in some sort of a fight there. Look at his nose. They got a stock image, but not of the family man with his children, just a man with a bruised nose. Yeah, there's definitely something going on here. I don't know what, and I don't know how much it's actually deliberate or just a matter of a sort of mob, you know, like a sort of feeding frenzy. But definitely something going on here. And, well, we can all try and decide whether the police actually set this up or whether it just happened and the newspapers decided to grab the ball and run with it. All right, that's it. If you want to donate or contact, the information will be rolling over the Graniopteryx as I speak. Please like, subscribe and share because it does help with the algorithm. If you visit my channel on YouTube and one day discover that I've disappeared without warning, you'll still find me on BitChute or Minds. Just go to either of those platforms and do a search for Graniopteryx. If you're already watching this on BitChute or Minds, good for you. Meanwhile, if you're watching this on YouTube, remember that you must keep checking the subscribe and bell icons because occasionally they reset. Till next time.